the Frog here with a very special message for my good friend Omran Daknish. That's right. Hey buddy, how are you doing? I love sending special messages like this to people all over the world, but especially to great little boys like you, Omran, all the way over in Aleppo. I'm thinking about you today and every day. You are a special little boy. And of course, I'd love to give a big shout out to your sisters Roa and Taki and your brother Abdullah. Omran, always be safe in Aleppo with your family. We love you. The whole world loves you. Yay! Omran, keep being the sweet little boy you are. You'll always be close in my heart. From your friend, Kermit the Frog. I love you, Omran.
أهلا، أنا عمران دقنيش. لقد رأيتني في سيارة الإسعاف في حلب. عندما أطاحت الطيارات الجوية بمنزل عائلتي. أنا بأمان الآن. أردت أن أجيب على تساؤل شخص ما حول مشاعري عن نفسي وعن عائلتي عن طريق قول أنا بخير وأنا أحبك أيضا يا ديفيد.
I'd like to talk with you about a special little boy who lives in Aleppo, Syria. His name is Omran Daknish. He and his family were injured during airstrikes in Aleppo during the summer of 2016. Everyone in the world saw him, and even the presidential candidates discussed him.
The heartbreaking video of a 5-year-old Syrian boy named Omran sitting in an ambulance after being pulled from the rubble after an airstrike in Aleppo focused the world's attention on the horrors of the war in Syria, with 136 million views on Facebook alone. But there are much worse images coming out of Aleppo every day now, where in the past few weeks alone, 400 people have been killed, at least 100 of them children. Just days ago, the State Department called for a war crimes investigation of the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad and its ally, Russia, for their bombardment of Aleppo.
That picture of that little 4-year-old boy in Aleppo with the blood coming down his face while he sat in an ambulance is haunting.
I am asking you to remember him and his family. They should never have had to endure this. No one should. He is safe today with his family, but millions of other children are still suffering in the world today. Remember Omran. Remember his people. Remember Aleppo.
We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans. We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
This is Albert Groby. Prepare yourself for the shock of your life. You are about to come face to face with the most monstrous crime of all time. For this is the story of a demagogue, a demoniacal genius with criminal, sadistic proclivities and his ruthless cohort participants. A story about a gang of killers who embarked on a mass annihilation of millions of human beings. This is a story compounded of human degradation beyond comprehension. A highly organized scheme which used every device known to modern science, but deliberately twisted for the infliction of agonizing torture. Of awesome power built on mountains of human corpses. This is the revolting story of a party and National Socialism, a movement nurtured by a savage determination to ravage and destroy, a movement that bathed itself in an ocean of human blood. But there's nothing happy about this story. From the very beginning, it was a tale of horror. From the very beginning, the sanctity of human life was violated. It all started after the First World War, when Adolf Hitler took over the National Socialist German Workers' Party and outlined a program aimed at building a super state.
We demand the union of all Germans in a great Germany. Only those of German blood can be citizens. We demand that Roman law be replaced by German law. We demand the formation of a nationalist army so that Germany can fulfill her destiny.
Thus spoke Adolf Hitler before a crowd of 2,000 disgruntled Germans in the Festsaal of the famous Hofbrauhaus in Munich. It was 1920, and all kinds of discontented people were taken in by his program. When his program was all set, Hitler started to line up his followers. First, he organized the brown shirts, or stormtroopers, whom he planned to use as shock troops. Next, he formed a defense corps, a small personal bodyguard, which was known as the Black Shirts. Their insignia was a death's head. Then he designed a flag, in the center of which was a black hooked cross, the swastika. This was supposed to symbolize the superiority of the Aryan race. The Nazis promised miracles. At first, instead of military might, the Nazis glorified the worker. They hoped that by doing this, they would strengthen Germany for war. Arbeit macht frei. Work makes one free, was their slogan. And in this way, they hid their true purpose, to enslave the entire world. With master strategy, they seized control of every branch of the German government. They took away civil liberties, destroyed all who stood in the way. They found that music could help incite beast-like behavior, could rouse the desire to kill, pillage, rape.
America. The freedom we took for granted is gone. But this spirit still lives in a country called America.
America! 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 America!
America.
There were songs describing Jewish blood spurting under the knife, songs urging the destruction of Catholicism, songs that glorified a common criminal, Horst Wessel, a hoodlum, who died violently in a street fight and was made a national hero in what became the official Nazi anthem.
A bird must sing because it is a bird. And a man who is born to be a dictator has a right to step forward.
This is what Adolf Hitler told a court in Munich in 1924 when he was tried and convicted of treason. Later, during 9 months spent in prison, he wrote Mein Kampf, a testament of hate. The masses of people do not reason, Hitler declared in his book. Like animals, they are driven forward by fanaticism and hysteria. Hitler knew exactly how to encourage fanaticism and how to generate hysteria. None were more fanatically committed to their grisly plan of murder than the company he gathered around him. Sadists, trained killers, known perverts and drunkards, all of them. And extermination camps. At first, thousands of unsuspecting victims were taken into what the Nazis called protective custody. But this was not what the Nazis really wanted. And so they devised what they called the final solution. Death camps. Auschwitz, Buchenwald, Belsen, Dachau, Sachsenhausen, Treblinka, Helmno. Terminal points built with electrified barbed wire, gas chambers, and crematoria. There were 30 extermination camps scattered throughout Western Europe, and in these, the German butchers carried out their gruesome blueprint of slaughter. Men and women, boys and girls, children and infants in their mothers' arms, none were spared. It was typical to hear a band playing something gay and gemütlich, while tens of thousands of men, women, and children were sent to choke to death in gas chambers and then burned in huge ovens. Generally, the musicians were concentration camp inmates themselves, forced to perform in fear of their own lives, while their comrades marched to their doom. This is the fiendish mind that only yesterday gave terrible and personal new meaning to words like gas oven, genocide, purge. This is the devil whose underlings, with sadistic delight, butchered the body of Willie Schmidt, a harmless music critic, by mistake, and sent his battered corpse home in a sealed coffin to a grieving widow and her young children. This is the cunning mastermind that promised German youth,
today, Germany, tomorrow, the world.
And incidentally, he meant your world. Here he is, speaking at a mammoth rally in the Munich arena, filled with 75,000 of his worker servicemen, as he called them. An additional 200,000 persons hear his voice on the outside, blasting over loudspeakers.
Die nicht hergerufen hat, als das Gebot ihres Herzens, nichts hergerufen hat, als das Gebot ihrer Treue. Es würde ein Frevel sein, wenn wir jemals sinken ließen, was mit so viel Arbeit, so viel Sorgen, so viel Opfern und so viel Not erkämpft und errungen werden musste.
The faithful catch his fire. They scream for blood. The Führer's tempo quickens. He becomes wild with excitement, and animal tempers are ignited.
Man kann nicht dem untreu werden, was einem ganzen Leben Inhalt, Sinn und Zweck gegeben hat. Es will nicht so etwas aus nichts, wenn diesem Werde nicht ein großer Befehl zugrunde liegt. Und den Befehl gab uns kein irdischer Vorgesetzter, den gab uns der Gott, der unser Volk geschaffen hat. So sei denn unser Gelöbnis an diesem Abend, in jeder Stunde, an jedem Tag, nur zu denken an Deutschland, an Volk und an Reich, an unsere deutsche Nation. unser deutsches Volk Sieg heil! Sieg heil! Sieg heil!
Quote, the final solution, unquote. This was the term the Nazis came to use for the annihilation of 6 million Jews. And meanwhile, millions of others died in the bloodbath of persecution and aggressive war that followed. 400,000 Americans, 6 million Russians, more than 357,000 Englishmen, 450,000 Frenchmen, 6 million Poles, 10,000 Norwegians, 150,000 Greeks, 5,000 Danes. 2,000 Catholic priests perished at the hands of the German Nazi terror. And through it all, through all this ghastly bloodletting, German workers and industrialists alike prospered and grew fat as they made machines for killing people more efficiently.
From Amram and Carey Films comes this true and tragic story of a small 3.5-year-old boy who lived in Aleppo, Syria. His name is Amram Daknish. He was seen one night in an ambulance with blood on his head. His family survived the worst night of their lives when Russian airstrikes destroyed his neighborhood. The world saw him, cried for him, remembers him today. The famous director George Lucas brings this story to life in a way you will never forget because it really happened. Rated PG-13. He came from Earth. He was only 4 years old. He was the son of a diplomat. He was a time traveler and the first ever to visit another world. His name is Jason McRitch. He's going where no boy has ever gone before, to a place called Opposite Earth is What? Now on DVD and Blu-ray.
Don't you think this has gone too far?
This is your president. In the past 10 years, I have fooled all of you into believing the socialist ideology of everyone is equal. How? By making everyone believe the lie and having destroyed our nation's sovereignty. Through communism, we all will be a unified